Several of you, in fact, mentioned pensions, and it just so happens that the next question deals with pensions. So let me put it out here. The city's unfunded pension liability continues to grow. While it is a future liability and it doesn't have to be paid in 1 year, we are charged interest, currently 7.5%, on unpaid principal. The amount that the city owes is, in fact, it's real, it's due, and it can't be forgiven. So what do you see as the biggest issues or risks in this area, and how would you propose to deal with those issues? Victoria, I'll start with you.
So just talking about our unfunded pension liability, I propose a few things. I think, as you know, that the pension issue is two issues. The unfunded liability relates to those past employees and people who have already retired. We owe them the money. We made a deal with them for their retirement when they were employees, and we owe it. For me, I think that we should be putting aside a reserve, starting to build a reserve to pay down that obligation, something that gives us the most flexibility to pay down when market conditions put it in our best interest to pay down, and then we don't pay down when it's not in our favor. I don't support CalPERS, who's the California Public Employee Retirement System, who runs the pension plans. They said, "Oh, we've got a program to help you pay down your problem," but since they started the problem, I have a 0% chance of giving them more money. So I would not advocate anything that locks us into something and lessens our flexibility, but I would like to see us have a reserve that gives us the most flexibility to pay when it's advantageous for us.
Great, thank you. Jennifer?
The unfunded liability is basically the money that CalPERS lost and the amount they owe. So in the 90s, CalPERS was 100% funded. They could pay all their liabilities going forward. They made some terrible investments. Now they're about 67 to 70% funded, and they're foisting all that loss onto their member organizations, including cities. This is not a unique problem to Palos Verdes Estates. This is a problem throughout California, in fact, throughout the country. And so in order to solve it, it is going to take more than our city. And Betty is correct. We've been talking with our local legislators. I'm the president of the LA division of the League of California Cities, and I've been working with our member cities to address this with the legislature, because this is a statewide problem that's going to take some legislative action or additional work from the governor. In terms of what we can do, we have shifted the normal cost of the pensions, 100% of the employee's liability to them and the employer's share. I do agree that to pay down our share of the unfunded liability, we do need to start saving for that, but we shouldn't lock it up in CalPERS.
Thank you very much. Michael?
I'll take it from there. I think the reality is that we're only paying a portion of our growing liability every year, and it's just becoming a big and bigger, larger and larger balloon. I don't think that we can look to the state to solve all of our problems, much less the federal government. I think that while we can interact with them, it's not gonna fix our problem at home. I think the reality, because CalPERS reports our pensions over a year back, and then it hits our CAFR, our annual report, you know, they're showing numbers at 15 million, but they're probably more like 17 million. And so I don't think we can put our head in the sand. I think we need to actually deal with it and address it. A couple other thoughts. The city manager released a report in 2017, and between 2013 and 17, rather than looking at professional services, as Dave said, or outsourcing, the O word, I think the reality is we added 8 employees to our environment, and we massively spiked our payroll costs, our workers' comp costs, and our pensions have gone through the roof. So we're not facing the issues and dealing with it, which is what we need to do.
Great, thanks. Betty Lynn?
So as I mentioned a little earlier, working with state legislators is very important. Governor Newsom understands that there is an issue with CalPERS and CalSTRS, and so he's actually allocating $5 billion into paying that, but only for the state. Now, how do we become the squeaky wheel that he's going to contribute something over to the city side as well? And of course, we can't just rely on them to solve our problems, because yes, this is our problem, but let's not try to feel good and prepay some of these payments, because once they changed the discount rate, we went from a $9 million unfunded liability to a $14 million unfunded liability. So would we rather have cash in our bank account to pay for our stuff, what we need to currently, or do you want to do the feel-good thing and prepay some things? I do agree with Victoria, and I do agree with Jennifer, that we need to have a trust or a reserve that we can put money in case prepaying might be a good idea sometimes. But other than that, I think I'm good to go. We'll defer it to the financial expert here.
Well, as far as the pension strategy is concerned, our Financial Advisory Committee is working on a plan addressed to focus on this issue. One of the things that may be appropriate is doing some pay down of the unfunded liability, but there's a catch to that. We need to find the resources to do so. And in our general fund, I'm not going to get into a lot of accounting, but the revenues and the less the expenses provide a certain amount of surplus, I'll use that word, and we can choose to put some of that towards a pension reduction, or we could choose to put some of that into our capital improvement reserve or some other activity. But the problem is our surplus, that the difference between the revenue and the expenditures has been narrowing, and we don't have the luxury of finding excess funds to put into pension and infrastructure issues or capital improvement plan today.
Great, thank you. Kevin?
I agree with my colleagues. The CalPERS system needs to be modified, and thank you for working for Sacramento with that. It was designed very poorly and easily abused. I mean, people can cash in vacation time, sick time, something that I read about in the paper is airtime. I never heard of that before. And so they're 66% funded. In Los Angeles, where I come from, the forefathers did a really nice job. You can't spike anything. Your pension is based on your base salary. No sick time, no vacation time, no air time, and we're about 94% funded. So CalPERS needs work. I agree that we need to look at, and Michael brought it up, is professional services. Des, thank you for that term, wherever you are. I was calling it something else. But professional services really is the way to go on a lot of things. So in my position is in police relief with the medical benefits, we outsource almost everything. General counsel, computers, or copy machines, consultants. So there's work that can be done in-house. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all very much.